Welcome back to your Essentials small group. This is our fifth session, and today we're going to be exploring Jeremiah chapter 31. Malone, as we look at this passage and the rich imagery and promises given to us in the passage, how does this help us understand the church?
Yeah, so a couple of things stand out immediately from this passage from Jeremiah. Well, first, I hope as we're going through this, you're beginning to see how all of our imagery is now kind of being woven together. The imagery of fidelity from our first session of a bride, you can hear it here. So just as we move forward, think about how a lot of this imagery ties together. But again, in this session, on the heels from our last session, it's speaking to a people in exile, Jeremiah talking to a people in exile. And it's important to think of it in that way because the church functions in many ways similarly as a people in exile. This really ties into what you talked about as nation, that we are this nation of people and yet we live in exile. For example, you've likely heard the phrase, this world is not our home, we're just passing through. And in a sense, that is actually true because the way in which the world functions a lot of the time is not the way that we function as the nation of the church or as God's people. And so the people here find themselves in exile, and Jeremiah's speaking to them about some things that their lives are to be marked, by mercy and forgiveness and love, even in hostile environments. And in this way, the church exists in exile too. Next we see, and this is so beautiful, that even though they're in exile, God's people are intended to plant vineyards. So our image and figure this week is that of the vineyard, not just in our homelands, but here importantly in Samaria. So even when you're in exile, plant vineyards. Well, in one sense, it's saying you're not to just kind of sequester yourselves and wait until everything's right before you get on with living. You're in exile, get on with living, right? Plant your vineyards. It also ties into the command for us to be a blessing to those around us, which we've talked about in past sessions. The life of God's kingdom is not meant for us to hoard, to just protect for ourselves, but that others might taste and see that the Lord is good. And so plant these vineyards, no matter where you are, even if you're in exile, and of course as the church, that we are to then meant to be that image of Christ to the world, even if we might kind of live in a sort of exile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the vineyard is a rich image we see throughout the scripture. So let's talk a little bit more about that. In a vineyard, you squeeze grapes to get wine. So let's squeeze this image and see what else we can get from it. Let's talk more about the vineyard.
Nice segue,
Yeah.
Because it's perfect. What's the reason for a vineyard? Well, it's fruit, right? And from that fruit, you can make wine. But the whole planting of the vineyard is this substance which is kind of symbolic of joy and of goodness. And so accompanying kind of these descriptions of joy that we hear in Jeremiah of dancing and celebration and singing, we get this imagery of a vineyard producing this sort of fruit. Well, I think one of the significant things here is, again, as we are called to be a blessing to those around us, perhaps living in a sort of exile, our witness is to be one marked of joy and celebration, not just a people in sackcloth. Well, we might ask, why is that? Anxiety and heaviness marks a lot of the daily living for so many people in this world. It's generally experienced by all of us, even by God's people. But his desire is that not be simply the content of our lives. And even in the New Testament, Jesus will speak of parables, talking about the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God is one of celebration. We get wedding feast imagery, we get vineyard imagery. It makes me think of John 15, where he begins to talk about, again, this abiding together. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me will bear much fruit. Again, tying into vineyard imagery, and that apart from him we can do nothing. Again, this just fidelity of the life of God infusing us. Well, this connection to the life-giving substance, his love of God, it gives us a greater insight then even to what Jeremiah is saying, that our blessing to the nations as they were instructed to do there in exile is one that as we abide in Christ, we continue to do with those around us. The abiding promise, which is beautiful, is that there will be fruit if we abide. And that fruit we know of his Spirit is love and joy and peace, marked of beautiful things that the world so desperately needs.
So Malone, any last thoughts about the church as a vineyard to leave us with?
I think one more that I find really significant, in addition to the joy and celebration and that sort of tone, is the image and the reality of growth. It's a vineyard is a living image, and that we're meant to grow. The church, the people of God are meant to grow. But it's interesting because any discussion of a vineyard must include the reality that grapevines or vineyards don't grow the same way as weeds do. You don't have to do anything to make weeds flourish. They're just going to do their thing. But this imagery of a vineyard, and if you know anything about vineyards, is they take constant attention in order to flourish. They don't just flourish on their own. They need this care. And so this understanding of growth that doesn't just happen kind of willy-nilly, but it takes a vine dresser. And in John 15, God is called the vine dresser, and it uses this imagery of pruning. I suspect pruning is not our favorite image because it's something being taken away. And yet, for us to operate and live together in relationship as the people of God with one another and with our God, there are things in us which hinder the resulting fruit in our lives. And so this pruning away is a non-negotiable. There are things that need to be removed from us. And this is really the journey of discipleship, that those things of love and mercy which may be incongruous with God's kingdom along the way become removed, not to hurt or destroy or damage us, but to improve our ability to enjoy one another and to be this blessing to the greater world around us. So I think this idea of pruning is absolutely part of what it means to be the church.
Well, we hope you enjoy your conversation about the church and about the image of the vineyard, and what that means for us and how to live into that.